seasoned scholars who have established themselves in their areas of endeavor. Today, education, they say, is the bedrock of development. Without quality education, development becomes a mirage and poverty becomes the lot of the majority of the people. To tackle poverty, ignorance, and underdevelopment, education, particularly higher education, has to be given priority of place in our national development strategies. Higher education in Nigeria has witnessed growth since our independence, which started with only 2 tertiary institutions, till today, where we now have over 400 tertiary institutions in Nigeria. This growth has not been witnessed in any part of sub-Saharan Africa. As of today, the universities in Nigeria totals almost the same with those in Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa put together. And the number keeps increasing, with private institutions in Nigeria touring above those of state and federal university. As much as the number goes up, the number of tertiary institutions still cannot meet up with the teeming population of youth desirous of tertiary education in Nigeria. The increasing number of tertiary institutions poses challenges which have to be surmounted to be able to compete favorably with the peers all over the world. These challenges vary significantly from one institution to another and also change with different institutions. To compete globally, certain general acceptable indices for assessing quality education has been set. These include, and not limited to, quality faculty members, quality teaching and learning environments, adequate infrastructure, conformity to higher education and policy and practice, innovation and development strategies, proper education examination system and timely results, feedback and grievance redress systems, effective academic calendar, good support staff, equal opportunity for staff and students, updated curriculum, and adequate funding. Nigerian institutions were battling with these aforementioned educational indices before the advent of COVID-19 pandemic, which has now brought about a regression in the attainment of all these indices by the tertiary institutions in Nigeria. How do we now progressively develop our tertiary educational systems post-COVID becomes a challenge across the globe. While all our colleagues all over the world have started moving on with COVID-19, tertiary institutions in Nigeria are still locked down. So to attend to this situation, seasoned scholars are here with us on this panel that will address these issues. I have with us today Professor Lanre Fagbohun, who is the Vice Chancellor of Lagos State University. Professor Fagbohun is a professor of law and the senior advocate of Nigeria. You are welcome, sir. We also have Professor Kamil Omotosho. Professor Kamil Omotosho is the Pro-Vice Chancellor and Dean College of Business, Law and Social Sciences at the University of Derby, United Kingdom. I also have with us Professor Adedeji. Professor Adedeji is a professor of pharmacology at the Faculty of Basic Medical Sciences at Olabisi Onabanjo University. Professor Adedeji was also a former Assistant Deputy Vice Chancellor at the Kampala International University, Kampala, Uganda. I also have on the panel as discussant who will contribute to the issue today, Dr. A. Lawal. Dr. Lawal is the former rector of the Lagos State Polytechnic, Ikorodu. I also have Dr. Nasiru Onibon. Dr. Nasiru Onibon is the current provost of the Michael Otedola College of Primary Education in Ekpe. I also have Dr. Ismail Ibrahim. Dr. Ismail Ibrahim is an associate prof of journalism and media studies at the University of Lagos. He's also the acting director. For International Relations and Partnership Office at the University of Lagos. I do expect that at the end of this program, all of us will have a recourse that we have been able to attend this program because our seasoned scholars would attend to it adequately. I want to use this opportunity to call on the Vice Chancellor, Lagos State University, to give us his keynote address. Professor Lanre, Fagbohun, please.
Thank you very much. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I so? Okay. Okay. Good morning, all, and thank you so much for this opportunity. Let me thank the organizers of this event, M Solution Consulting International Limited, for the opportunity to share my thoughts on this very important topic that we are discussing this morning. I also want to thank the moderator for your kind words. I join in welcoming our very respected and distinguished speakers who are here this morning, the special guests, and our participants. Grant me the indulgence to greet my brother and friend, Dr. Nosiru Onibon, Associate Professor and Provost of MOCPET. I welcome you all.
Thank you, my boss, sir.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on the future of higher education in Nigeria post-COVID-19. I will say that the world has been shaking again. Some people will say after 100 years, we've had another one. Whatever it is, we have it here with us. And we have to battle with it. Precisely 5 months ago, Thursday, 30th of January 2020, the Director General of the World Health Organization declared coronavirus, codenamed COVID-19, a public health emergency of international concern, following its very deadly and virulent nature. Since then, humanity has been afflicted by illness and death of varying degrees occasioned by the pandemic. Those of us who are very conversant with CNN, you will see the kind of mayhem that coronavirus is doing in Florida, in different states of the United States. What is happening in Brazil? What is happening in different parts of the world? And we have not been exempted. The analysis was such that the governor of Lagos State, few days back, was actually with some concerns that probably would have to lock up again. And then you saw a situation where yesterday, about 18 local governments, when they were giving the status report, about 18 local governments, they are looking at locking them up again. So the virus is still very much with us. Some analysts have said that 2021 will still be a part of it. Probably until the vaccine comes out, we will continue to face it. Why am I emphasizing this? Are we going to continue to lock our educational institutions up until 2021, until 2022? That is not going to happen. And that is why what the organizers of this event are doing this morning is something to be greatly commended. Bringing all of us together to think through these issues. Public healthcare systems around the world are being overwhelmed, while state and non-state actors are struggling to curb the spread of the virus. It is a race against time, a race for survival, and a race to reset the economies of the world. You see, when we talk about resetting the economies of the world, in one breath, we know the virus is out there, killing people, ravaging systems. At the same time, people must eat. At the same time, education must move forward. So these are the competing issues that we seek to balance. Ever since the first index case of coronavirus disease in Nigeria was confirmed in Lagos, as announced by the Federal Ministry of Health on 27 February 2020, the numbers have been on the increase. Education, just like other human endeavors, have been badly impacted by the effects of the ravaging virus. The federal government of Nigeria had to impose measures such as stay at home, movement restrictions, social physical distancing, use of face mask, amongst others, as a response to the pandemic. In the same vein, the Federal Ministry of Education on Thursday, 19th of March, 2020, directed the closure of schools in the country, effective from Monday, 23rd of March, 2020. State governments also issued similar directives. Academic activities such as teaching, examinations, convocation, matriculation, and admission had to be suspended, thereby disrupting the academic calendar and activities of virtually all universities, polytechnics, monotechnics, and other tertiary institutions of learning in the country. Higher education in Nigeria, just like other levels of education, became grounded. According to UNESCO, 192 countries had closed all schools and universities by the middle of April, affecting more than 90% of the world's learners. An estimated 1,725 billion learners are currently affected by the school closure worldwide resulting from the pandemic. Unfortunately, remote, virtual, open distance, and other learning methods are just emerging in Nigeria. Consequently, while learning is ongoing in some parts of the world, just as the moderator pointed out, several higher institutions in Nigeria are on lockdown and learning is grounded. Clearly, COVID-19 has birthed a learning crisis in Nigeria. If we have 170 institutions, 170 universities, let's just put the universities on the radar. 170 universities, and you have a situation whereby probably less than 5% of them are working. Have we not been grounded? It is really a serious challenge. At some point, the tertiary institutions in Lagos State University, where I hold forth, is one of them, MOCPED, and I'm glad my brother is here on the platform. We had to resort to administration, teaching, public lectures, and staff training via remote automation. I must say that when we started this, two major challenges we were confronted with. One of the challenges we were confronted with was electricity. You have, at the Lagos State University, over 27,000 students. Some of them are in areas where they will not have electricity. So when you're talking about virtual learning for them, you have to be careful when you talk of real time. Probably not 1/4 of that number will be able to access whatever you are doing real time. So when the Lagos State government came to support all the tertiary institutions in Lagos State by putting on ground a platform for us to be able to function, we were thinking through that what is the best way. And what we settled for was a situation where you will do a voice over your lecture notes, and then you post it on the platform for the students to go there at their own convenience and be able to access it. That way, you are able to meet the challenge of electricity and you are able to meet the challenge of data. Because for some of them who are also struggling, you must be careful not to put on them the pressure of data. Otherwise, at the end of the day, you will lose that opportunity of access to education for most of those that you want on the platform. For me, a discussion centered on what lies ahead in terms of higher education in Nigeria beyond the COVID-19 era is a welcome development. I must say that there will be greater emphasis on flexible mode of teaching and learning, even assessment. In terms of learning, students will, if we give them the opportunity, more freedom in how, what, when, and where they learn. The combination of face-to-face and online learning will not only give students the freedom to choose, it will reduce, if not eliminate, a lot of barriers to learning, such as distance, physical structures, and costs, among others. You see, when we talk about the crisis that it has thrown to us, we must also recognize that it is opening up opportunities for us. So we look at the crisis, we look at the opportunities, and we see how we as a nation can quickly key into utilizing the opportunities. That is why entrepreneurs will tell you, when you see a challenge, be rest assured that you see opportunities behind the curtain. It depends on how well you have the resilience to push through the challenges as for you to assess the opportunities. With a growing global population imbued with a keen thirst of knowledge driven by competition, and a technological savvy labor market, immersive learning and teaching experience will become indispensable to higher education in Nigeria post-COVID-19. To put it plainly, digital campuses, robotics, artificial intelligence, and other advanced technologies will become big players in the higher education space, and Nigeria cannot be left behind. In this light, our education curriculum, content delivery, and learning tools must be realigned to drive us through that future and beyond, bearing in mind that knowledge and education are the foundation and drivers of development. This was a point that the moderator made so clearly in his opening remarks. We must be equipped to adapt or transform to new methods of learning. We must also address the issue of accessibility to digital learning tools. As a country, there is a need for a paradigm shift in our education policy in such a way that innovation is embraced while creating a veritable environment for technology to drive teaching, learning, and research. Government at various levels will have to effectively address issues relating to internet accessibility, poor connectivity, high cost of data subscription, and unstable power supply. Most tertiary institutions are currently faced with dearth of funding. Proprietors, particularly government, can invest in technology in order to put these institutions in good stead for global competition. University administrators should also look more to technology to reduce their costs in the face of dwindling funding as a result of competing priorities of government. For us now at the Lagos State University, some of the things that we have resolved to do, we run multi-campus. We have a campus at Epe, we have a campus at Ojo, and we have a campus at Ikeja. In times past, we will get everybody from Epe to come to Ojo for Senate meeting, for management meeting. Since COVID started, what we have been leveraging on is technology. You at Epe, stay at Epe. You at Ikeja, stay at Ikeja. Those of you at Ojo, stay at Ojo. And then the meetings will continue. Senate meetings are holding, management meetings are holding, meetings with students are holding, everybody connected. That is going to reduce costs. It is pushing all of us to think outside the box, because at the end of the day, we must move forward. Most tertiary institutions are currently faced with dearth of funding. An increase in the adaptation of technology for learning, research, and administration has a potential to bring in more students from within and outside the shores of our nation to satisfy their higher education needs in Nigeria, thereby reducing costs while increasing the revenue profile and global ranking of tertiary institutions. You can see the gains that will come in. If you are doing quite a number of things online, students from other institutions will be able to key in, stay in their contract, and be a part of it. And at the end of the day, you reduce your cost in terms of governance of your institution. If Harvard University could post a $298 million surplus in the 2019 fiscal year, then tertiary institutions in Nigeria should, as a matter of necessity, urgency, develop and adopt sustainable operating models to compete favorably on a global scale. Technology can make this possible. If you look at it, go to the website of Harvard, you see that quite a number of programs leadership programs, entrepreneurship programs are running. $5,500 for a 2-week program, $15,000 for a 3-month program. And those are the kind of things that they have. We too can do similar things if we have very robust infrastructure running our educational system. In terms of continued relevance, our tertiary institutions will have to walk the talk. They need to be the bedrock of industrial growth through top-notch research and developmental efforts. Industry is already poised for a more digital and competent workforce. Thus, higher education in Nigeria should brace up and be open to endless innovation and changes in the post-COVID-19 era. Going by the McKinsey Global Prediction, almost half of all workplace activities could be automated in the future. It is therefore apt that tertiary institutions in Nigeria ensure that staff and students are imbued with appropriate orientation and mindset. This will boost the confidence of our human resource to adapt to the technology revolution by welcoming same rather than exhibiting fears and becoming skeptics of change. There is no doubt that the pandemic has added a new layer of complexity to running of the affairs of higher education in the country. On a positive note, the threats posed by the pandemic may turn out to be the springboard that our higher education requires to look inwards for a sustainable reform that is long overdue. I must add on a final note that the future came quicker than anticipated in Nigeria. How to keep up with global digital revolution going on in the higher education space is now more than ever a matter of serious concern to government, higher education administrators, and other stakeholders. As is the case in other countries, tertiary institutions in Nigeria should embrace and adopt disruptive technologies and e-learning as the new normal in educational delivery. These include Internet of Things, blockchain, cloud-based computing essentials, 3D enhanced learning, artificial intelligence, and big data analytics. Where necessary, our institutions should partner with vendors who are able to supply configured laptops to students at discounted rates. We should also be looking at working with organizations like M Solution Consulting International, because at the end of the day, we have these opportunities here. We do not have to go outside Nigeria. I am confident that our guest speakers, Professors Camille Omotesho and Ahmed Adedeji, will in the course of their presentations open our minds on how we can create a better learning, teaching, and research experience in the higher education space in Nigeria beyond the coronavirus pandemic. Once again, my deep appreciation to the organizers and a warm welcome to all our participants. In times past, this kind of event that we are having today, we will have to hire an auditorium. All of us will converge there. But look at it today. As at this moment, we have around 25 people on this platform, and we are having this very robust conversation. I thank you so much for making this opportunity available. I thank you all for your attention and wish all of us very fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Prof. I really appreciate your depth of analysis and the depth of the discussion. Thank you very much. You made certain very important issues, which I think will be part of what we'll be discussing in the next phase. You mentioned challenges we are facing. You mentioned that there has to be flexible, we have to evolve a flexible mode of learning, that within the crisis, there are opportunities that we still have to explore, which is what our erudite scholars will be discussing now. You mentioned that we must have a paradigm shift in our educational systems. So all these are things the next speaker, Professor Camille Omotesho, will be talking about. He will be talking on post-COVID-19, taking the Nigerian higher education to the next level, with particular focus on administration, innovations, and international relations. Professor Omotesho, please. Professor Omotesho.
Just a second, battling with technology. Okay, very many thanks to the moderator, Dr. Oluremi Olale, and my thanks to Professor Fagbohun, the Vice Chancellor of Lagos State University. I seize the opportunity, first and foremost, to thank the organizers for inviting me to share in this session with you a bit of my experience, a bit of contribution, and of course to learn from my colleagues who are co-speakers as well as contributors. As the moderator mentioned, my focus will be, they call it administration, innovation, and international relations, but I've taken the liberty to use a more common or more common terminologies. I changed administration to leadership, and I've changed international relations to internationalization, because these are more commonly used worldwide, so that we will be on the same page. So it's just a matter of semantics, and I'm sure the organizers wouldn't mind. Also, can I just say that my colleague who will be speaking after me will be covering the area of research and academics. And I look at the area of leadership. How can I discuss leadership in higher education institution without delving into the areas of research or academics? So I will keep that minimal. And at the same time, Professor Fagbohun's welcoming speech has been very, very detailed and comprehensive. So he has touched upon certain elements in this little small presentation. So where that has been the case, I will not bother to repeat. I will just refer you to what he has said. As a matter of background and context, because I wouldn't want you to have that erroneous impression that they've just brought this Britico to come and just tell us what to do. No, not at all. I'm here to learn as well, and I'm here to share my experience, which is based on having studied here in Nigeria up to master's level, worked at, worked in many organizations in Nigeria, including Lagos State University in those days, right? And then my experience as the international lead for West African region, developing partnership and leading student recruitment for a university I worked at, the Montfort University in those days. Also, my leadership experience at a few UK institutions and sitting on international boards relating to academic as well as professional practices within the last 1 decade. My continuous interaction with academics and higher education institutions in Nigeria in terms of training, both in Nigeria and in the UK, in the last 7 years, I've been a faculty facilitator on leadership programs for vice chancellors, deputy vice chancellors, governing council members, bosses, etc., where they come to spend 1 week and we we train them and they participate. So, and I take a lot from this. Sometimes we do it twice in a year, sometimes 3 times in a year. Also, if you put all this together and the keynotes, collaborations, policy contributions, this have allowed me to see the strengths and weaknesses in the higher education sector in West Africa as well as in Europe. So hence, that will form the basis of my contributions today. So I'm not just coming from Eurocentric kind of perspective. I want to be at home with you, and I want to relate to the model we use in Nigeria, which is quite different from the model we use in the UK here. I will focus on leadership, as I mentioned earlier on, innovation and internationalization. With respect to how do we emerge stronger from post-COVID-19 era? As Professor Fagbohun mentioned earlier on, when they say post-COVID, what does it really mean? To some people, we're already in the post-COVID era, and to majority, we are still in COVID, and hence all this talk of another wave, another lockdown process, because it's still there. It's not over until it is over, and it can only be over when we've got a credible, effective vaccine, and people adjust to the new normal in terms of the way we carry out things and social distancing, etc. So if you ask me, probably that may be another 18 months, 2 years, maybe. It all depends. So then what is post-COVID-19? We know that this is an anomaly and we are going to get over it at some point. So the journey that will happen, or the plans after COVID, must start now, not being delayed. So without further ado, let's go to the leadership aspect. I will base it, my comments on this on Professor Fagbohun's keynote address earlier. How do I mean? Nowadays, because of the lockdown, and we have maybe 5% of Nigerian higher education institutions going online, quote and unquote, because it's not online real time. It's just making the best out of the situation, pre-record, speak over slides, so that students can actually get a gist of what you are talking about. Some learning is taking place, upon which assessment can be done. I would say that in other climates where technology has developed, like when we went into lockdown around late March in the UK, all the educational institutions, higher educational institutions, went online straight away. We rolled this out because it had been part and parcel of the system all along. So lecturers can actually teach face-to-face with students virtually. They can ask questions, they can pause and demonstrate certain other things, etc. That is the next level. And I'm sure we will get there with necessary enabling environment and support from the government. So as a result of this lockdown, what has then happened is our students are at home and they are now able to search for online courses from universities abroad. Some of them, if not most of them, are actually free. So what we have seen now is that they've tested how it looks like, how it should be. So as a result of that, we cannot give them anything less post-COVID. So the paradigm shift mentioned is imminent, relevant. If we don't become irrelevant, our students will just come and they will tolerate whatever we give them. And that will not make an excellent student experience at the end of the day. And it will leave a gap in their learning process. As a result, I like MCI, what they did was they circulated a questionnaire. They want to gauge the pulse of the stakeholders of higher education institutions in terms of what people think are happening. Visions, strategies, goals, universities coming up with this. So I'll come back home now. I know the vice chancellorship for example, and even in polytechnics and other education, higher education institutions, they are tenured. You spend 5 years or thereabout, and that's it, no second term anymore. I make bold to ask, if a new vice chancellor emerges, what are their vision for the institution for the next 5 years? How have these visions emerged? And what are the implementation plan? And is there buy-in from all the key stakeholders of that educational institution? This is really important. Whether you are starting your tenure or you are midway through your tenure or you are about finishing, it is incumbent that we review that vision in the light of COVID-19. Otherwise, it will no longer be fit for purpose. And when we are designing or revising these visions, goals, strategies, at the core of this is student experience. I know the model we use in Nigeria is you have more students willing to attain university education or higher education, to access higher education, than we could provide for. So the demand outweighs the supply. Where that is the case, the supplier calls the shots, and you are careless about the quality of what you are offering, because you know that whatever it is, they will take it from me. If we are still living in that era and with that mindset, we are not preparing future leaders, those who will be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with their compatriots in other countries. So that is really not an effective thing to do. And once you, finalize your visions and goals, then you design your strategies, meaning that where are we? Where do we want to be in 5 years' time? Okay, by the time I'm completing my term, what do I want to be remembered for? What will be my legacy? This is really important. So how do I get to where we need to be is a strategy. And once you have your strategy cleared up, then what is the structure that will enable me to achieve this? It is really, it's not a secret at all in the West that when you have a new leader, they come up with their vision. If you ask me what are my visions, it's a twin vision: reputation and growth. Everybody within my college knows that. Everybody within my university knows that. Go to the LSS, the twin vision is what? Growth and reputation. And we have strategies to achieve this, and we restructured to ensure that the structure can actually support the strategy put in place, and we can achieve our vision. I'll quickly run through the remaining ones. You need to now reevaluate your resources and capabilities. And this will cut across academic area, that is your lecturers, and the professional services, that is what you call non-academic. We normally refrain from using non-academic because really they are academic. They have degrees, some of them have got masters, some of them have got professional qualifications, etc. So we call them professional services. So you have to actually work together. It's not because we are the senior lecturers, we are the associate professors and the professors, then we tell them what to do. No, we collaborate, because you need two legs to be able to walk straight. So it has to be along the same line. Also, what I want to emphasize is post-COVID-19. What is our strategy for talent hunting? Or because some people are there just marking time to retire. They are not interested in new ways of thinking or new ways of delivering. So how do you hunt for talents? And they're out there. And I'll just mention one. I read a newspaper article in one of the Nigerian dailies about 2 days ago. And this particular private institution made bold to say us, one local, another one from the UK. And the one from the UK is actually a personal friend of mine. I said, wow, how did they get him? and he's going to be a visiting professor. And I knew that that was real, because that individual will not agree to a nominal contract. Say, okay, we are going to just use your name just as a kind of window dressing for reputation. He's not that kind of individual. If you appoint him as a visiting professor, he is indeed a visiting professor, and he will do his part. That is the way. That's the new way of thinking, because they can actually deliver without even coming to Nigeria. And when the lockdown is over, if they are able to come, even better. But without them going anywhere, they are able to deliver. And that is the new norm. So we've got to hunt for talent. And the ones we've got, how do we retain them? This is really important. Financial stability, I think the Vice Chancellor mentioned short courses in Harvard, etc. Why can't we do this? Why do our multinational corporations and establishments in Nigeria have to go to the US or to the UK when you can actually put together a very credible delivery offer for them that will actually enhance their productivity and move them to achieving their goals, and you will make money. So the era of relying on government subvention to survive, and you are unable to pay staff salary because the government has not yet paid, that era should have been over by now, because there should be other mechanisms. Here in the UK, we call it third stream income. Income you derive outside the normal tuition fees and outside the research funding, which you normally get from research councils and the UK governments. Also, knowledge transfer partnership with the industry, spin-off companies, etc. These are really important. They are the new direction of travel in higher education sustainability. Also, governance effectiveness. People have tasted, they've traveled, they've seen how things are done. So there should be sound internal control systems where no single individual is able to override the system to their own benefits. Or transparency, accountability, risk management processes that are robust are very important. Quality assurance, I know my colleague, Professor Adededi, will cover this in more detail. Teaching quality is really important. Value added. A student comes in with, say, 8 C's, and they are able to achieve first class. That is value added. Because when they came in, they were not first class materials, but you turned them into first class materials. The era of a professor coming in and at the inaugural lecture saying, oh, how many of you are here? 120. Last year, I had 150 students, and out of them, only 30 passed, and he is smiling. That era is gone for good. We don't want sadists as trainers of the future leaders. We want people who are actually up to what they claim they are in terms of being lecturers, being senior lecturers, being professors or associate professors. So value added is really important. The measure which every institution now grapples with in the UK is what we call graduate outcome. Okay, you know, the politicians will say, kilo bade. At the end of it all, what is in there for me? I've done the education, I've acquired a degree, I can't obtain a job. So higher education institutions are measured by how many of your graduates were able to get employment within a particular period. And in another, say, 3 years or 4 years, what is their salary level compared to their colleagues who have not come to, who have not attained higher education? So the question is, in 5 years' time, if my salary is lower than the salary of somebody who has not come to the university, what's the point? So they're holding us to account. Are your products marketable? Are they attractive in the labor market? Are they hitting where they are supposed to be hitting in terms of income and contribution to the economy? This is really important. And student support will be another one. Post-COVID-19, some people will have the trauma You can imagine somebody who lost 3 family members within a space of 1 week. And you want them to remain the same when they come back after lockdown? No. What are higher education institutions doing to support them in terms of their mental well-being, their physical well-being, support that will allow them to have extension on assignment and coursework so that they can function well? These are really important, and they are important post-lockdown. And stakeholder management is the final one here. How do we manage our internal stakeholders? Who are they? They are our employees. They are those in the position of leaders. They are the students. In fact, I should have mentioned them first, because in my days in the classroom, when I was more regular, I get there, I tell them, I'm here standing in front of you because of you. So my success is measured by how many of you are able to attain A grade, B grade, etc. So I am delighted, happy that, okay, I have 100% pass rate. And if I don't have that, my line manager will ask me, what went wrong? What can you do differently so that you can attain a higher attainment? This is really important. How do you manage your collaborators, the industry, the government, etc., and external stakeholders? I'll quickly move to the next one, which is innovation. And innovation without research. So I will just touch upon it because I know Professor Adedeji will expatiate on this later on. There can never be innovation without investment in the state-of-the-art technology, as Professor Fagbohun mentioned earlier on. This is a must. As a learning platform, as well as research tools, you can only build on what is currently existing. Take them to the next level only when you are aware of what they are. Also, investment in human capital, necessary training and exposure will be important to take your staff, your professors to the next level if they are not aware where the world has reached in their discipline. Then, because when you are doing PhD here, probably you write a proposal, the key factor is what is your anticipated contribution to knowledge, contribution to practice in your area, contribution to policies. If you can't answer those questions, and no university will grant you a PhD without satisfying themselves that you have become an independent researcher in the process, and you are going to be able to make a meaningful contribution to knowledge. That is what we take pride in as academics. The second one is interdisciplinarity. In terms of research, that is when you are able to actually explore a particular phenomenon from different perspectives, so that the solution and the output of that effort will be a cutting-edge one. Industry engagement via knowledge transfer endowment, sponsorship of doctoral degrees, and professorial chairs. In those days when we were in the uni, we used to have this a lot, and it's drying up because we did not nurture those relationships very well. Here in the West is a very big thing. In fact, if you are a dean of a particular college, your work is more of external than internal, because you have to actually think outside the box on how to generate income through the industry and other related organizations. And at this point, I will be bold to say, you have to make the professors to profess. Professors, our professorial grade is not just titular. When you get to somewhere and they introduce you, this is Camilo Motesho. Pardon me, there's no Camilo Motesho here. What we have here is Professor Camilo Motesho. So what? My contribution to my discipline should speak for me as a professor. Not because they have to call me a professor. You call me professor, you don't call me professor, that doesn't change my name. But what contribution or mark have I made in my profession? What are you known for? And my professors in the college I had what they struggle for to achieve is when they achieve a particular citation level, or they are invited, maybe in Australia or in Nigeria or whatever, to give a keynote address or inaugural speech or whatever it is, immediately they email me just to show that, you know what, I'm delivering what you have employed me for. And in the last 2 months now, we've actually submitted nothing less than 20 COVID-related research proposals. How many have you done? So this is really important. The professors must profess. The era of laziness or mediocrity, now I've got the title of professor. This is now the era. I've done my bit. I'm now a professor. Let others do it. We just attend meetings and we drink coffee and tea. That era is no longer tenable. There's no room for mediocrity or laziness. And finally, on that point, the government needs to rise up to this. Innovation is practically impossible without the serious support of government in terms of budget allocation, in terms of putting in place structures and systems that will support it. Give you an example of the UK. We have a board called TSB. What does it mean? It means that that board is, they call it Technology Strategy Board, TSB. And anything called innovation, now it has been, the name has been changed to Innovate UK. They give the highest number of grants to technology-related research efforts that would turn the UK economy around, that will make it one of the technology leaders in the future. So a very chunky part of their budget is dedicated to this, and it has a whole organization, and you will be surprised. I'm an accountant. I'm a professor of accounting and governance. What is my business with technology or Innovate UK project? And I've won before. Because when you team up in interdisciplinary way, you have, everybody will have their own slice of the cake. And my final slide, internationalization. I'm saying that global higher education institution will provide global employees and citizens. So if we are talking about, we want to produce graduates that are employable by multinational corporations in Nigeria and abroad, or that are global citizens in their thinking, thought process, and outlook, worldview, then our education institution have to be global in nature. You cannot be local and you are targeting to produce and collaborate with global entities. It doesn't happen. How does this, how can we work around this? We need international exposures. There's something we call transnational education, whereby you internationalize your curriculum. When we was at the University of Lagos, we used to do JAS, General African Studies. It's part of fail module. So a module of that nature should be designed on globalization, so that you are producing a global citizen in views, perspectives. They know what's going on, why, and how we can contribute as Nigerians. This is really important. So curriculum, and again, I think my colleagues in higher education institutions, particularly universities in Nigeria, are trying here to avoid predatory journals and encouraging people to publish in world-ranked journals. This is important because you can never get your papers into these journals if you are not current, if you don't know what's happening in the discipline globally. Conferences, training, academic visits, exchange programs for staff and for students. This will enable your institution to be global institutions. Also, collaborative online international learning. You can be in Nigeria and you are collaborating. As I speak, I have my daughter is doing something now, and they were supposed to go to continental Europe, but now they are doing it online. Somebody from the US, somebody from Australia, somebody from New Zealand, somebody from Africa, all of them congregating, maybe only 20 people, targeted at a particular thing for fresh graduates. This is really important. And we have actually incorporated this into our curriculum. When I was at Coventry, every module must have an element of online learning where you do projects together, you do courses together, because it widens your horizon. It prepares you for the international market. Guest lecturers and speakers, international examiners, you will be surprised. I was having a chat with a colleague some years ago, and he said, do you know what? My supervisor in the University of Nottingham had actually been to University of Lagos. I said, wow, when in the 70s, what did he go to do there? To examine a PhD thesis. Is that happening now? Because he had been there, University of Lagos name is really there. And he knew that the PhD thesis he passed is comparable to the PhD done in Nottingham. So if we don't do this and use technology for that, then we will be lagging behind. Make your institutions attractive to external bodies. Our attitudes and culture have to change. It has to be positive and aligned to international best practices. Global ranking should be of importance to us. Relevant accreditations at international level for various courses and parts of the university must be sought. And we have to capitalize on our strengths, reach out and negotiate your terms. And finally, again, governments will have to play a role in this by providing enabling environment. I thank you all for listening. I believe we have the ingredients as Nigerian higher education institutions to leverage upon. But my question will be, do we have the will? Are our leaders serious about this? When, how, and where do we begin? Is everyone here today ready to play their part? Or will we prefer to continue to blame others? Is it not time we started the path towards the next level? If we do, social change will be ensured, economic development will be ensured, and technological advancement will be ensured. Thank you very much for the opportunity given to me. And then I will hand you over back to the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kamil. Well, I think your speech had been very difficult for me to summarize because I was actually paying rapt attention. But something I have not been able to miss out is that you said professors should profess. Professors should profess. So the title shouldn't just be for title's sake. So when you say professors should profess, what should chief lecturers in the Polytechnic and colleges of education do? So I thank you very much for the depth of the discussion. I think you have even gone further than even discussing. You are talking about tertiary institutions in Nigeria, the next level. That's even gone beyond post-COVID. You have given us a future of how our tertiary institutions should actually look like. I thank you very much for the discussion. The MSCI organization has done a poll wherein students, lecturers, and administrators have participated. After the second lecture, we would have to present a summary of the entirety of the polls that they had done. So while now we call on the next speaker, Professor Ahmed Adedeji, to talk to post-COVID-19, taking the Nigeria higher education to the next level, with particular focus on academics and research. I know that you are one of the leading researchers and scholars in Africa. I do hope that you give a depth of analysis into the topic. Thank you very much, Professor Adedeji.
Okay. Thank you, the moderator. I want to start by appreciating the organizers. I hope my screen is vivid enough. All right. Okay. Please, can you see the screen? Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity given to me to contribute to this discourse, post-COVID-19, the future of higher education in Nigeria. And I am very grateful to the organizers. This is a time that is very important, very unique in our life to ensure that we can find a future together for higher education in Nigeria. I thank Professor Fagbohun for his wonderful opening and Professor Kami for those discourse. I will be going through how should Nigeria higher education organize to respond to COVID-19. The outline that I will go through very quickly include COVID-19, the challenges and the new norm, and I'm sure that a lot has been spoken about that, so you might find that I'm not going to take too much time going through that. The issues in higher education institution at COVID-19, practical migration to a model of higher education institution post-COVID, administering and financing university briefly, just an additional perspective to what Professor Kamil had said. It is very clear in the last 5 months to 6 months that almost everything on the continent, everything in Nigeria, everything in most countries are affected, even outside. And we could see it ranging from economy, ranging from health to economy, to food, to agriculture, to government itself, to business crisis that we have all over. Survival has also been affected somehow. We are getting used to new terminologies when health emergencies are declared. For example, the personal protective equipment, flattening the curve, the pandemic, the social distancing, epidemic, so many terminologies we're getting used to, but especially for those of us who are not from health-related background. We're getting to see new things happening, and we're getting familiar with our society and how health impact on it. You have heard about quarantine. These are things COVID-19 brought along with it. When it started in China, nobody knew it was going to spread very quickly around. But between December and February, almost everybody had had a taste, and it was clear that the pandemic was at hand. There was a new norm that arrived with it. And there was fear. There is fear everywhere. It hasn't left us. We have found people in this picture as shown in different areas of our life in the last time. The marketplaces had been shut, and e-marketing is taking over. Our campuses had been closed. Our classrooms are empty. It was clear to us that COVID-19 had further complicated our already complex web of future directions our higher institutions should go. We had issues earlier on, and which we were battling with before COVID came, and that has been alluded to by my previous discussants. This will not again be seen, or may not again be seen. This packing together in our classrooms may disappear forever. We are sure that the next dispensation and the rules that will guide our engagements in academic circle will change. I always say that COVID-19, despite the devastating effect, is our best chance to change higher education institutions forever. What shall we be doing? We've got to reprogram and there's no wasting time about this. There will always be transition phase, but we've got to reprogram. Because if we don't program ourselves, life will therefore program for us. We have seen the challenge ahead of us, and that everybody needs education. Education should be just like any indispensable material of our life, and we know it. We shouldn't place it secondary, and it has to take a particular position in our affairs. I was taken aback when I found over records that education was not declared an emergency. It ought to have been. Like health institutions had been involved and declared emergencies. Food emergency, education was one important sector that should have been declared an emergency. It was not time for us to go sit at home because we already had compounding problems before time. We had issues relating to poor infrastructure and corruption in our system. Unemployable graduates graduating from our institution and our higher education institution dropping in global ranking. Except recently that we found something important and unique about Lagos, University of Lagos. Many others had wavered down and others up. The quality of our teaching, and the quality of teachers we have in our institutions has something that had bothered us. We had all this on the ground. We had students unrest, staff strikes, all around us. Even before COVID was declared a problem in the country, we already had a staff strike. The ASU was on strike. Not because they wanted to be on strike, but because of the compounding nature of our higher education institution, especially the universities. There have been a lot of problems highlighted by different people, different groups all over the world, and they have different things battling with. We have found one of the toughest ones, that our labor market is disconnected from our system. Our graduates graduate sometimes without themselves feeling the value of graduating. They move to the market and they are not employable. They didn't find a place suitable for them. Complicated by higher tuition in other institutions when you are not able to get admission into government institutions. Even government institutions today are becoming expensive. There are so many problems with higher education that needed our serious attention. There have been political interferences in different sectors, even to selling water in the country. So we know that there is an issue, a societal problem that we are facing. When COVID came, we locked down. We locked down our campuses, and the Vice Chancellor made a very important remark about that. Confusion pervaded the society. Governance can be seen jittery, and politics is playing its own part in different terms. We knew that there was confusion with COVID-19. For several weeks, there was no organized learning, meaning that within that week, there is no knowledge generated and no knowledge shared, no growth by implication. We were not sure of what our society would look like. We all started putting on nose masks, face masks, and then being extremely conscious about interacting with ourselves. If individuals start to separate from themselves, society may not hold center, and a lot of things would happen. So which direction should we go? Several other operational questions are also calling for answers. If COVID will not go, or if COVID will go when it is far into another 2-3 years, should our higher education institution not resume, therefore, the activities? If we're going to do, how do we then address it? If we have to keep safe rules in the universities, how will it impact our academic? How will it impact our research? How will it impact our society responsibility, contributing to it and its growth? How shall our higher education promote knowledge in this dispensation? How shall we then engage very well in research and innovation? How do we fund the higher education institutions to shape the society? And what kind of future society do we want to see? These are critical time to answer these questions. This period of COVID gave us opportunity, and a task force should have been put together at levels of the community, levels of the society, the university, the government, and which they are doing actually, but not well spread across all. I said the solution starts here with us. And everybody that is attending this forum should please take from me that it is the time for us to believe in ourselves and believe that we can make anything happen. If we do together, we will change the system, the academic structure, the higher education learning that we ought to have, then can come. Let's take this opportunity to consider COVID-19 as a re-engineering virus that had come to initiate certain catalytic processes to change us from where we are to our desired goal. And that is very crucial to our life, because just like Professor Kamil said, when you don't engage now, what shall you live? What shall you be known for? For whatever reason, we've got to do something. We should consider COVID-19 as a game changer for our society transformation. And that can be done with our higher education institutions, the universities, the polytechnics, the colleges of education, and other colleges that are existing. So it is high time for all of us to come together in mind and be focused about what we want to do. We need a future where our higher education institutions is evolving new things, is encouraging evolution to advance our life and well-being. It will be a period when our university should undertake revolutionary changes that will set us on the right path, on the right track over the 40, 50, 60 years of our independence. We really need to look forward and get something done. And this is a period of transformation. It is time for us to innovate. And for this COVID time, our future society should be well planned. All our policymakers should be at work. All our administrators, our researchers, it is no time to go sleep. It is the time to work. And smart learning, I say, is the way. We will definitely have restructuring going on, collapsing some structures and building new structures. Basic knowledge has to take families bring families on board. Parents have to participate. It's not giving children to families and to schools and say, you should take care of them. It is high time we all restructure things. And the way things are going, we will not be able to mass them in a classroom any further, because any single strike from one COVID-infected patient or candidate or individual strikes everybody down. We have seen the worst case scenario in America, in Europe. We are hopeful that that will not repeat itself with us, because we lack infrastructure to curb the excess or the expansion of this kind of cases. To this extent, we have tried, but we need to do more. We need to have group collaborations where we will find many youths come together, and the learning is going to be experiential. It's going to be different. Comprehensive ability will be enhanced. When that is done, we will advance to a level when we have individual learning personalized, and that experience takes us to the next level. As a society, we cannot do but with collective intelligence to advance our cause. Therefore, smart learning, which has been described by our colleagues in different disciplines, is one way to go. That will help us to shape future citizens and create knowledge hand in hand with other actors and institutions in Nigerian society and communities. When we have to apply smart learning as an institution, it is important for us to note that rather than shut down our educational system, it is time to leverage on 3 clear areas which can be added to as our researches expand. Pedagogical innovation is crucial, educational technologies is crucial, and accreditation is crucial. These 3 areas are important because life will change, learning will change, structure of learning will change. Classrooms may not be the only one. The arrival of digital technologies and the internet into classroom had changed our affairs. It has changed the way faculties think. It has changed the way students access. It has changed the way the two of us access, produce, and share information. Therefore, in our COVID era or post-COVID, whichever one we categorize it, we need the digital technologies to help us. And this has been displayed in several areas. Several seminar webinars are on, several learnings are happening. People are learning at home, children and parents, because they sit at home, are now learning together. And the university students are learning from different sources. So it means that COVID has shown us the possibility of advancing our new learning era and a future learning system that our higher education institutions should take. What do we need to do therefore? One is customized and personalized knowledge production. In the past, we massively produce, with massive principles, we bring knowledge together and produce it for everybody. But it's not likely that everybody that is produced for will be able to use them effectively. But that is one area that we need to pay attention to. As we personalize medicine, we're likely going to start to personalize and customize knowledge production in our system. Information and knowledge will be produced and accessed on personal demanding principles. That's what COVID that brought to us. And that's what we should start thinking about. The next level we need to go. Old system may have to change. The challenge we may have as higher education institution is adapting our curriculum, reorganizing our program, reorganizing our research environment and research structures to fit into the next dispensation. Like, this is the time to take it. Seriously speaking, this is the time to take it. It is time for us to leverage with our counterparts elsewhere where they're doing better. And we call it personalized learning. That was what was said by Buckle and Kobo 2018. Second thing we need to do is to adjust to a position where we create flexible learning opportunities, and everybody should be engaged. This is a situation in which classrooms, libraries will have to be transformed to what we call flexible learning spaces. And there, students are free because of level of exposure and facilities available to them to talk over coffee, to discuss problems and solve them. And a new method of evaluation is also given, such that the practical sessions are evaluated, their experiential understanding of the subject matter is evaluated, and they're using new technology. This is one of the things that our institutions may need to adapt. We will not be able to advance research under the old system any further than to do some engagement of the stakeholders, including the students themselves. Number three is to transmutate higher education institutions into suitable mode for our society. In the way of moving forward during the COVID, we may experiment mode one, which has been the one that has been with us for years. I will share with us mode 2, mode 3, and mode 4 very quickly. But mode 1 is that in which teaching and learning exist within a closed geography and a closed ontology. And in that respect, universities referred to as the ivory tower, where knowledge is transmitted to the students, and then that will come until the students themselves become towers of knowledge and they can profess it, and they enter into the society to transmit it. That has been a very good one we have experienced, but there are ways of improving it and which we need our universities and colleges to advance to. If we are already doing very well with that, we can advance to a mode 2 or a mode 3 or a mode 4, depending on what our capacity is. And we can use that to rank our capability and our performance. Let me explain very quickly what mode 2 is. It is a knowledge factory university, where our institution, higher education institution, where knowledge is produced, and that influences the society in terms of producing future workers. The gates of the universities and colleges are flooded open and made very open in such a manner that competencies, ranking schemes, and efficiency are put together, and there is value for knowledge. And the society can feel the impact. Some universities are at this level in Nigeria as of today. The third model that was propounded was ecological university. And that is hybridity and value-sensitive design in higher education, in which there is an overlap, in which all institutions, the higher education institutions are put together. And the old system and the new system where we're advancing allowed values to be ingrained in the training of the people. When there is loss of value, the society will collapse. And we know so at this level, there's an integration of societal need with our learning structures, which we put in place. It is important that in this system, traditional forms of and formats of teaching and learning within higher education will be brought to a level of rethinking, configuring, and redesigning. And that will facilitate a more engaged university and students. The last one is the model which we were working on before COVID, and that was integrated society, university, and colleges. We need to have an integrated society, university, where university society confluence for knowledge. So it is not that we just take from the society and bring to university, but the two of them are integrated, and it created opportunity for value-based technology-driven designs of curriculum and wealth and job creation. In a system like this, we take knowledge from nature, from existing knowledge, from what society and how society responds to knowledge. We pull this together into a curriculum that drives the kind of society we want to emerge. And this one we say, learning from university everywhere, anywhere. Creating a knowledge society and a dream community of technologically advanced citizenry. And it requires that our pedagogy must be well structured and innovative enough to reconfigure our society. One important thing we need to have is cluster of learning. And we call this cluster of learning hypothesis, in which our students are outside the university learning every time. They will replace classrooms in the future. We will have classrooms by the roadside with the vulcanizer, with the mechanics, all filled with students who are learning the job of the future and improving those areas in our society. If we do have them, then our society is restructured for technological advances. The students had learned, they are enrolled as students, they move into those areas of the society to learn what is happening in the society, and our teachers are there to recalibrate their understanding for a vision of a society that is desired. In this cluster of learning, we will have admissions given to students. Teachers will be masters of practice outside and teachers of learning, both appointed by higher education institutions into departments, which will restructure. Workshops will be job centers. Laboratories will be both for both private and public sector, public facilities that are available in the community. We put them there to learn. We monitor the curriculum, we monitor the academic program, and rate them on that basis. These are people who have interfaced with society. They will not lack job. In this integrated society universities, there will be advancing of new society to emerge. So we're preparing a future for everybody, and we're involved all together. These are the kind of things we would see. When societies are organized, when the university, higher education institutions are organized very well, we can use the technology to drive meeting with our students and taking them to the next level. We must all also know what society do we want. At a time when Russia and the United States was advancing, it was clear that one of the things that influenced the academic program reprogramming in the US was the successful launching of the movement to the space, the journey to the space by the Russian team. Every student in that community is now taken as serious that we must know how to do this. Our America must come first. Something like that. Nigeria should not remain the way it is. We've got to really move. If we want to move and we want to put the research in perspective, we want to put academic in perspective, our students must interface and must be involved, integrated into the society to learn. Our curriculum in the university must change. Our DVCs need to try and revive the academic structure, academic program, and the curriculum that fits into our society. That's the future which we can see from there. I won't need to talk much about funding. My predecessor spoke about it. But one important reason why I have taken from Bamero 2012, this structure that we use in Nigeria, is to emphasize that the landscape in the third stream needs to be advanced. It needs to expand. We don't only need consultancy services. We don't need gifts and donations alone. We don't need investment income alone, endowment alone, or grants alone. We've got to really move the university to manufacturing. Move the university to what the society is really craving for. You would imagine if my university, Christian Obanja University, has an automobile factory. Partners are involved from society, and our engineering faculty is engaged. How shall my student therefore look for job? Job is already created. The society is advancing. We do not need to do only small-scale businesses. If we have the like of Yahoo, if our students are also capable of producing equivalents of Facebook, we would drive technology to bring money to the university. So I therefore imagine that in funding, just as an addition, the basic things, some basic considerations are required. One, the society of the community should take responsibility for funding education. Either by government, private sector, everybody should take responsibility to fund education. I know that we are being asked to pay money. Public people in the public pay money. But the truth is that we must give education to them for a better society in the future. Number two, everybody is a student in this future university, in a future college. Everybody, the woman that is selling in the market, the man that is walking on the street, everybody is a student. Just like electricity is for everybody, water is for everybody. Education must be for everybody, and we must live to it. I know that we profess it by words of our expression, but the truth is that we really live to make sure that education, certified education, is part of what everybody should be exposed to, should have. All students in a model should be indebted to the society, and they will give back to it. Even if we have to borrow them money to go to school, to support their education, we should do that. And then they will know that they're indebted, and they have to give back to that community. So when we create job for them, a part of it is also paid for. Scientific financing of education was what I was trying to say the other time, that we need our higher education and colleges to open big manufacturing and production companies. We need to devise unique ventures and technology hubs, use science and technology to generate wealth, loan students and recoup loan from their employment in the university arena or in any area of affiliation. We need to create a new wave, a new idea. In the recent time, I've been engaged in Cash Telex project, and that project is a financial inclusion project, which any higher education institution should be able to do. And a lot of things are behind within it that can make life transforming educational institutions be available to everybody. In conclusion, I want to state humbly that our higher education governance must help us to rethink and redefine roles of our universities and colleges, and define what our society transformation should look like under what we call COVID, or hypothesize or put across to everybody as COVID-19 society transformation window of opportunities. This is one of the things after receiving the invitation from SCI, we've started discussing that we could get partners, universities together, and open a help desk where we can say COVID-19 society transformation windows of opportunity. Let us identify it for the universities. Let us identify it for the colleges. Let us understudy them and see where the opportunities are. You know, footballers are not best players. Spectators may be, auditors may be, when it is time for us to review things. Number two, that the confines and boundaries that defines our higher education today, for example, Akoka campus, Shagamu campus, Kenya campus, all these should expand to accommodate the society structure and use facilities within the society as training tools for our students, as learning, for the purpose of advancing them and improving their own lot. We will create jobs if we go the scientific way. Private-public communities, and other members of the society should participate in funding education, and universities should rely more on its own capacity to finance its society and people. It is a tall request, but knowledge is wealth. And even where knowledge resides, we're unable to generate finances,
I think we have a problem there. Oh, Professor Adedeji is offline. Well, meanwhile, let me attempt to talk to some of the questions raised here by some of the participants. Someone raised the question that going forward, it is inevitable that e-learning is the way to go in our higher educational institutions. But how do our educational institutions ensure sustainable e-learning in an environment where we have consistent infrastructural deficit, meaning lack of stable electricity and ineffective 24/7 robust online system? For me, I think that operating a tertiary education, operating a higher education institution, I can liken it to the old classrooms that we used to have. You cannot say you have a classroom without a blackboard. What would the students come and learn? What would the pupils come and learn? So for any serious educational, higher education institution, the most basic infrastructures are what I think is electricity and internet facility. If you don't have it, well, you can just shut the gates, because these are the basic things that are needed for any educational institution to function. And once someone else asked a question here that what is the difference between what they are having now in most Nigerian higher institutions and an actual online education? I think the question is meant for Professor Campbell, but he's offline now. So he's at a meeting, but he will come back and attempt that question. At this point in time, I want to call on the technical unit to bring forth the polls that have been taken, the survey poll that have been taken by the MSCI, so that our participants and guests and panelists can have a share of what people have discussed about the basic infrastructures and other things that are needed in the current tertiary institutions and which will be needed in the post-COVID tertiary institutions in Nigeria. Some questions have been raised there by the MSCI organization. The one that is visible there is the vision and mission statement of your institution clearly stated and made public to lecturers and students? 60.4% of the respondents stated that the vision and mission are well stated and well shared with lecturers and students. 26.2% stated that it is well stated, but not well shared with lecturers. 9.6% shared. Others mentioned, those are insignificant percentages, mentioned that not well stated, but well shared. Other question there, I do think that, like the first speaker mentioned, that it is very important that there is a shared vision, clear strategy of higher education institutions, which must be known to everybody because they are part and parcel of how to attain those vision and mission. So sharing it and not sharing it becomes very germane in making the strategies that have been highlighted work. And in this case, many tertiary institutions, those who responded to that question, said that 60.4% said they are well shared and well articulated and well stated and well shared amongst, which I think it's a considerable percentage. Another question there mentioned that are the available infrastructural facility in your institution adequate? 55%, 55.1% said that they are inadequate, that the infrastructural facilities are inadequate. When you talk about infrastructural facilities in tertiary institutions, you are talking about classrooms, you are talking about the library, you are talking about the laboratories, you are talking about even the learning environment. They are inadequate. Then 34.8 said they are adequate. Then very inadequate is very insignificant, and 6.4% said they are very adequate. So we also have a question there, our current funding strategies. To me, I think that attending to this question are available infrastructure facilities in your institution adequate. To the extent to which those who attended to the respondents can see in their institution is what they will attend. Someone who has been to institutions where internet facilities are available, where computer rooms are available, where laboratory facilities are available. Someone who has not seen such infrastructures may not be able to compare adequately. Another question here is, are the current funding strategies adequate to sustain and drive the institutions to greater height? 40.1% mentioned they are adequate. 48.7% said they are inadequate. So the funding strategies, this may be people that will be able to attend to these are people who are in the administrative level, the management level of the institution. Students may not be able to know what funding strategies are available. What concerns students mostly is that they want to attend to lectures. The lecturers are there. The facility in their classroom is okay. The laboratory facilities, library facilities are okay. Next. Yes, this other question is, to what extent is your institution technologically driven in terms of administrative and academic activities? Those who attended to this mentioned that 56.7 said they're fairly driven technologically, and 15.5 said they are poorly. 15.5% said they are well driven technologically, and 56.7 said they are fairly driven technologically. Well, we've had different experiences with institutions being technologically driven. If I have to narrate my own personal experience, my first day at the Loughborough University, I got to the research student's office, gave them my passport, and in 1 minute, my ID card was out. 1 minute, less than 1 minute, my ID card was out. I took the ID card to the library and it opened the door. I don't know to what extent we have such infrastructures here in this country. So when we say that it is well-driven and it is not well-driven, I think it may be contextual, it may be comparative. At this point, we may have to go to the next issue, which is the next program on the agenda, which is that we will want to take contributions. May I use this opportunity to say that we have some of the erudite scholars also joining us. We have, as one of the guests that just joined us, the Vice Chancellor of Fountain University, Professor Amidou Soni just joined us. We also have Professor Sena Bakari, the former Deputy Vice Chancellor of LASU, also joined us. You are both welcome. Now we have contributors that may want to to contribute to the issue, you can indicate. Dr. Onibo, can you please? Yes. Dr. Onibo is the provost of the Michael Otedola College of Education, College of Primary Education in Ekpe. Thank you. You are welcome. Please make a contribution.
Thank you very much.
Let me say that you have just 5 minutes maximum.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. Let me join the senior colleagues that have appreciated the organizer of this program. I also like to appreciate the presentations. They are very insightful and very promising. From my hand, going by the theme, post-COVID-19, the future of higher education in Nigeria. We all agree that we did not ask for COVID, but it has found us. And here we are. And we are locked down. After the lockdown, so many innovations came up. And one of it is that our institutions, the higher institutions, had to live up to it. And here we are online, teaching and learning online. I like to say that the presenters from the Vice Chancellor and others have said so many things. And if you ask me to forecast what is likely to happen in the future for the higher education in Nigeria, I may quickly say that with a layman's language, saying that one, I see an additional clamor for online model schools now springing up. And I also see that policymakers, whether in government or in our various institutions, will also be leaning more into distance learning education system. I see a lot of effort towards fortifying our ICT structures in our higher institution. I also see a more training of the lecturers in the area of usage of ICT. There is likely to be more dosage of ICT in our curriculum, making it compulsory sometimes, or in most cases. There is also likelihood of provision of better support for our lecturers. How do I mean? Better facilities for the lecturers to be able to be in their offices or in their home to deliver lectures. There is also need, after this COVID-19, for us to develop what I call self-instructional materials. The instructional materials we have today, we may need to interface with the lecturers in most cases. But this time around, we need to go more into self-instructional materials that the student can sit down at home and work with and still get the content of the curriculum to his or our understanding. The organizer, sir, is a mixed feeling here or mixed blessing here. There's likelihood to find at the end of the day after post-COVID-19 that the inequality, the exclusion, the attrition is going to be more pronounced because students and parents of our educational institution today are in different levels, and they have access to resources at different levels, and the resources at their disposal to be able to access learning online are also inadequate. There's likelihood that we find truancy from some of us that are ICT compliance, that they will come to class regularly, and you may have to hook on with your students anywhere you go in the world, and you can take liberty at that. Then the major problem now may be with the quality of the teaching and learning outcome. The quality may be jeopardized or compromised along the line. And this is where the policymakers and the teachers and all the stakeholders need to look into so that we will strengthen the quality assurance section or department of our various institutions to be able to monitor what is being taught online and the attendance of the students and the lecturers online, if we have to incorporate that, which COVID-19 had created a window for us to do that. Lastly, let me say that my forecast here is more subjective because you are in a society where you can actually not say, you hope that so will happen tomorrow, and it will happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Onibo. I want to call on Professor Ibino. He's been staying there for quite some time to make his contribution. Professor Ibino.
Okay, Jack. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Let me quickly say two things together. The first is that the future of higher education in Nigeria is more or less about acceptance of open distance and e-learning form of education in Nigeria. What's the meaning of that? Very soon, most of our universities or higher education will be going into dual mode. Dual mode, meaning that they will have component for face-to-face, and they will also have component for virtual and e-learning. Let me also say that based on NUC recommendation and the accepted mode in Nigeria, what we presently practice is one of the best we can comment about. It is called ICT-enabled supported blended learning. Again, ICT-enabled. We use supported blended learning. That's the model that we are practicing in Nigeria. So the future has to do with that it will be accepted. Some years ago, most of us, or some, especially those in the society, look down on ODL learning, that is online learning, virtual learning, as being inferior. With the coming of COVID-19, with the effort put in place for quality assurance and less, we have now been able, we are now sure that the quality of ODL for virtual learning, e-learning, is much more even better than what we can think of as per face-to-face learning. So the future is about acceptance of this thing into our life, and the future is that most of our higher institutions in Nigeria will go dual mode. That is on one hand. The other future is about research and development. Some years ago or some months ago, it would be very hard for you, even in Nigeria, to think about conducting your maybe five-hour defense or final presentation of your research outcome online. But now, with what we are seeing, you can
I think we had some hitches there with Professor Ibino. It's one of the challenges we've been talking about. ICT, electricity, it could be any of them. So before he comes back, I can see the hand up of my former boss, Dr. A.A. Lawal, former rector, Lagos State Polytechnic. Dr. Lawal, please.
Thank you very much. I want to commend the organizer for this type of thought-provoking lecture. Post-COVID-19, the future of higher education in Nigeria. I also want to commend all the presenters and all the contributors. But my area of contribution is in respect of financing. Because if you look at the submissions of all the presenters, we are emphasizing on the creation of enabling environment for higher institutions to move forward, particularly the need for higher institutions to embrace information communication technology. But like the Yoruba people will say, Owo ni keke yin rere. The basic problem or the basic challenge that we are likely going to face as higher institutions will be, how do we raise the required funds for coping with the challenges of COVID-19? If you look at I want to discuss this from the point of experience. If you assess higher institutions today, there are 4 major areas where they raise their funds. Budgetary allocation from the government, the test fund projects, the fees and levies, as well as the internally generated revenue. Now, if you look at the first two are dependent on the revenue generated by the government. And the post-COVID-19 will definitely be faced with the challenge of dwindling revenue from the government. And if we have reduction in revenue generated by the government, it will affect the budgetary allocation to these institutions. Then, if you also look at the next two, the fees, the levies, as well as the IGR, they are dependent on the revenue generated by the private sector. Because in most cases, and the public sector, in most cases, our students that are to pay the fees would depend on income generated by their parents. There are some of them that are part-time students, they are in the working class, the organizations are faced with retrenchment. There are situations where we have reduced the compensation package of these staff. Then it will have an impact on enrollment, impact on our ability to generate revenue internally. Then the only alternative that we may have will be probably through grants, through donations, and so on. But you will agree with me, that if you look at the value system in Nigeria today, we don't place value on education. We place value on other areas that will not contribute to the development of this nation. Because the common belief is that education is the responsibility of the government. And you may find it difficult for any institution, for institutions after COVID-19 to actually contribute to development of these higher institutions. And that is why the government needs to play a major role, because we need to revitalize the scholarship system, the bursary system, the loan system. Then the institutions must also try to be flexible in the mode of payment so that they will be able to generate the required revenue to provide infrastructure for us to cope with these challenges. Then one other area is the area of management of the unions, because we are likely going to face a lot of challenges. The unions will raise up demand, whereas the revenue base is going down. In fact, the challenge that we face in our institution today is that in other establishments, we only cope with a single union. But in our institutions today, we are likely coping with about 5 different unions: academic staff, senior staff, students, the NASU, and the rest. And we must be able to look at how do we cope with this. Otherwise, we are likely going to face instability in our academic calendar. And these are the areas which I want us to note. We need to prepare for this area for us to cope with the challenges we are likely going to meet post-COVID-19. So on this basis, I just want to commend the organizer for giving me the opportunity to make this short contribution. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lawal. I do not know whether we still have any contributor who wants to make any contribution on the topic of discourse as we have here. We have some questions for our guest speakers. Yes, the question here, which is directed to Professor Adedeji, is that considering the issues associated with our university education, like the lack of research knowledge on the part of the lecturers and host of others. How do you think the quality of lecturers and lecture materials will be assessed? How do you think there can be improvement on research outputs by individual lecturers and students at the same time? Professor Adedeji.
Thank you very much for the opportunity for that. I mean, I really appreciate it. That's a very good question, very brilliant question. It is not going to be very easy to rewind in a quick manner, the knowledge of those who lost the capacity when it was time to be acquired for research. Unfortunately, our universities and colleges of education and polytechnics today have attracted people from different backgrounds. All that were used oftentimes included just the capacity, the qualification. But the truth is that the responsibility of an higher education borders more on academics, research, and service to the community. So this research component is always also measured, but we have challenges. So if we have challenges in research, we will look at several factors to correct it. One, what's the research policy of our institution? If we have an institution with weak research policy, that will impact on the quality of staff. Although the environment of research is also very important. A research environment is an enabling environment. Without the structures, the policy structures, the facility structures that are required for an individual to do well. If we have an individual in an institution who has a problem with, we identify him as having a problem with research capacity, we've got to really help them right from the beginning. That calls for real structuring of our academic programs, the faculty. Faculties are expected to be mentee mentoring at the beginning, at the lower layer. We have the mentors, the professors that Professor Kamil said, let them profess. If we have those ones on board, they will be the ones to take on our assistant lecturers, guide them through the process. So there is a mentoring system. We can only route where we have like.
Sorry.
Hello?
Hello?
Sorry, I guess there was this disconnect there. That's part of the things that we need to really pay attention to infrastructure, and we will be able to improve them over time. So I really believe that we need to improve, to strengthen the capacity. Somebody's already in the system, we need to teach him the research way so that it can impact on our curriculum every time. In a university or other institution, the line of the discipline, the discipline of an individual becomes something where it generates new knowledge, and that knowledge is input back into the curriculum for the learning of the students. I believe strongly that with research policy and a good research environment and good leadership, we'll be able to retrain those who are probably missed out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. I also think that institutions can start to create research clusters that will be funded adequately. Thank you very much. I have also Professor Sena Bakari wants to make a contribution. Professor Sena Bakari, up to you, sir. Up to you, ma'am. Hello, Prof.
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes, please. I missed that. I'm sorry.
okay. Okay.
Yes.
I saw Professor Ibino recently so as to make his concluding contribution. He was making his contribution when the network disappointed. Maybe he's off again. Professor Bakari, up to you now. Professor Ahmed Sani, may I call on you to make your contribution now? Professor Ahmed Sani. Professor Ahmed Sani is not there again. So I think at this point, on behalf of the organizers, I want to thank all the panelists for their contribution. Professor Camilo Motosho and our erudite scholar, the Vice Chancellor, Lagos State University, Professor Lanre Fagbohun, thank you for your keynote address. Professor Camille, thank you for your contribution. Professor Ahmed, thank you too for the depth of your discussion on how to improve our research and the modes of universities that we should be thinking of having post-COVID. And I want to thank all other panelists, contributors who have made very positive and valid contributions to this discussion. We thank you very much. I think that challenges have been raised and solutions have been proffered, and I want to call on the Federal Ministries of Education, the National Universities Commission, the National Board for Technical Education, and other regulatory bodies involved in regulating tertiary education in the country, that at this point in time, post-COVID, there is a lot of changes that has to come to our curriculum. Some of them, many of them have to now be ICT based, and we need to improve on those that are currently physical that we are doing so that we can move to the next level. I want to thank everybody for listening. I am yours, Oluremi Olale from Lagos State Polytechnic. I want to hand over to the host for the final remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful time out. I have sincerely enjoyed and paid deep attention to some of the things that were said. First, I would like to say my deep appreciation to the Vice Chancellor of Lagos State University, Professor Lanre Fagbohun. Thank you very much, sir. The Debbie University, Professor Camille Omotosho, and Professor of Pharmacology, Professor Adedeji. Thank you very much for leading the discussion on this webinar. My appreciation is also extended to all our guests, our contributors for contributing, and to our participants. Without you, we won't be here. Let me say something that, like it's been said, that everybody is a student, and we should always be conscious of the fact that we should be sure of our mental, physical well-being, not just of ourselves in this time and of others. And let me use this opportunity to invite you to our next webinar series, which is 3.0, holding Tuesday, 14th July 2020, between 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. via Zoom video conference platform. We are collaborating with the National Information Technology Development Agency on the model to infuse technology in our learning. Because what we've discussed solely is how to infuse technology into our learning and how to improve our infrastructures. So we are trying to partner with this government agency, which is in charge of regulating the usage of technology information in Nigeria, for our next webinar. So thank you very much. Stay safe, stay blessed, and please, let's stay connected virtually. For me, my name is Shobaya Bolore. I'm your host from MSA. Thank you. Have a pleasant afternoon. Bye.